This is Doc Griggs here with the free agents. Trying to encourage you to get out, get checked, get fit, get moving. That's the only way to do it. The only way we know how in New Orleans. We hot, we skip, and we like to do something.
Do something.
It doesn't matter what you do.
Get moving.
I just want you to move.
Do
You
something.
know how to do that. In New Orleans, we move really well. We hot, we skip, and everybody knows how to just do it. Or do something.
You heard it here. It is the theme show for my favorite show here on BDO, and that is Get Checked, Get Fit, and Get Moving. Right here with Dr. Eric Griggs. So, good evening, Dr. Griggs. How are you doing?
Good evening. I'm well, sir. I'm well. What's happening?
All is well. I see you for seeing that. So, a couple of things we want to say at the beginning of the show. Let us know where you're watching from. So, I love the good evening, but let us know where you're watching from all over the world, wherever you're watching us from. Drop that in the comment section. We'd like to know. We'll give you a shout out. Second thing is, if you know somebody that needs this information that we're going to share with you tonight, please, like the show, share it on your page, give it a shout out. So we want to spread this information to as many people as possible. And then finally, if you have any questions, drop that in the comment section. So for Stina Sullivan, I'd like to know where you're watching us from. Thank you. Good evening to you as well.
Good evening, Stina.
South Carolina. Hey, that's where my people from.
That's where my people from. That is. Yes, sir.
Yeah, right. Charleston, you get you coming from Columbia, Orangeburg, Spartanburg. I know it's all. Sumter.
Yes.
Newberry.
Bring it.
Look, my family from 96. If you know about 96 South Carolina, you are really a South Carolinian. All right.
96. Wow.
96. Okay. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Hey. Right before 97? Yeah. Okay.
Right after 95. So, yeah. 96. Arkansas. Keep them coming, folks. We're going to have some fun this evening because we're talking about Black history and health, right? And so we know today is February 28th, so it's the last day of Greenville. All right. I know where you're at.
Greenville. Yes. The Davises. Uncle Tom had a peanut farm. Yes.
So we know February 28th. February is Black History Month, and February 28th, because February is, of course, the shortest month of the year. It's only got 28 days. Every 4 years, we know about leap year. Every 4 years, got the 29th day. So we wanted to take this opportunity to talk about Black history and talk about Black history and how it relates to health. So first thing we're going to talk about is, Doc, why is Black History Month in February? I know people ask that question all the time. And some Black folks, I'm going to give you all the negative narrative. The negative narrative out there is saying, because it's the shortest month and they doing Black people wrong. Well, wrong.
Wrong. And I'm kind of.
That's not the answer. That's
what
it says. So help our audience understand why Black History Month is in the month of February.
So first of all, one of the most effective things that I learned from med school and residency training is that you always need to know the limits of your knowledge and be able to say you don't know when you don't know. What I do know is the fact that I know it has something to do with Abraham Lincoln's birthday, if I'm not mistaken, and there's an affiliation with Carter G. Woodson. Look, let me consult a specialist. Ellis, can you help me out?
So yes, Carter G. Woodson. Is a famed historian in the early part of the 20th century. Yeah, we were at that 19th, 20th century. 20th century, and he wanted to commemorate something around the freeing of slaves in 1865 by, of course, the president at the time was Abraham Lincoln. We know he gets credited for freeing enslaved peoples, African people here in this country. And so they started with Black History Week.
Week?
It was initially 1 week.
Okay.
And that week was in correspondence with Abraham Lincoln's birthday, which happens to be in the month of February. We get that February, that President's Day off. Some of y'all don't get it, but that President's Day holiday is around Abraham Lincoln's birthday, and I believe it's somebody else's birthday, which is why they call it President's Day, because there's multiple birthdays around that time. And Carter G. Woodson created Black History Week. And then it was expanded, I believe, in the 60s or 70s to Black History Month. It got expanded, and so that's why it's in February. It's not because they don't like Black people. It's not because it's the shortest month. It's because it was built around Abraham Lincoln's birthday, which happened to be in February. So when it got expanded to a month, they just kept it in February. So Black History Week got expanded to Black History Month, and that's how we have it in February of every year.
So this is our portion, right? You want to climb your family tree and find your history. Not many of us knew that I for one, I was not today years old, but I was today when I found that it was Carter G. Woodson. I was today years old when I found out about Abraham Lincoln's birthday in the association. But most importantly, you wanted to spell the myths. Anytime you say that, oh, they're giving the Black people the shortest day of the year. That's not true. And you're saying we started as a week.
Yep.
It's interesting. So it's today is the last day of the month.
Yes.
But it seems that every day I'm finding out a new Black history fact as it relates to medicine and beyond.
Yeah, there's a lot of Black history facts right out there. So and really the purpose for me, and as an African American, as a Black person living in this country, we should be learning about Black history all year round, and particularly in today's political climate. It's not a political show, so I'm not going to go there, but you know what I'm talking about, folks. Florida.
Hey, easy. Keep them up. All
right.
However common.
All I'm going to say, I would blow that out.
Yeah.
But in today's climate, we should be learning and teaching our Black history to one another, to your peers, to your children. We should be learning it on our own. But particularly in this month, one of the things that I used to do on my personal Facebook page was I would give a Black history fact every day, right? Mm-hmm. So and I love to read about Black inventors, right? So when we're talking about Black inventors and what we do, and so cutting edge. So one of the things that I learned was during World War II, there was a young man, and he's actually in the Minnesota Inventors Hall of Fame because he's from Minnesota. He was a biracial young man, lived with his white grandfather, barely had any education, but he was really good as a mechanic. And he took his mechanical skills, grew them into, and so people would bring stuff to him to fix. And over time, he developed a refrigeration system that could be mobile, right? Because refrigerators at that point were stationary items. And so during World War I, his refrigeration unit allowed them to bring blood to the battlefield fronts.
Oh, wow.
And deliver them so the soldiers that were wounded could get blood immediately instead of it having, wait or just bleeding out because they couldn't get any blood into them. Mm-hmm. And so he is credited with really turning the tide, because if you can replenish your force,
yes,
you can stay more. You can keep more people on the battlefield, right? And you can stay on that front. And so he really was credited with, changing it. And he had a lot of patents. That refrigeration system is fantastically done. And so that's one contribution, but you don't read about that. It's not going to be in the history books. Right? So
this isn't a health necessarily related to health, but I tell people that the healthiest thing you can do is stay alive. We were talking earlier. Let's go a little deeper with the war thing, and there's something with the Marines, folks. As you can see today, I'm doing a lot of consults because that's what a smart doctor does. Because this is fascinating to me, and I know it's fascinating to you.
Well, another thing is that so over Thanksgiving, I took it upon myself to sit down because I do this for a living. So I was like, I've never interviewed my family. And
wait, you do interviews? You really?
Yeah, I do. I do a few. I do a couple, a couple interviews. And so I So I took it upon myself at Thanksgiving. We all were here in Atlanta. I live in Atlanta. And I sat down with my aunts, my uncles, and my mother, and just started getting a family history. And come to find out that my uncle uh, was initially drafted to go to Vietnam, but could not pass the physical exam so he was able to, he was medically discharged and did not have to go serve in Vietnam. And it was because he had bad knees from he was playing sports. He was in high school, he played sports, and so he had some bad knees. And what they made you do as the physical test was they would put you in a high school gym, and you know how it was called a duck walk, where you have to down, and you have to duck walk across the floor. And if you could do that, then you were able to be inducted. You passed, other physical stuff was done, but that was one of the last things he'd do. And because of his knees, he couldn't do it. And so they medically discharged him. But come to find out, at that time, black folks being black folks, and short end of the stick, you were getting black men were being put in the Marines because the Marines were on the front lines, right? And so you either went Army or you went Marines, and somehow more black men were going to the Marines, and they were on the front lines during Vietnam. And so just thinking about the trajectory of how his life could have been, how my life could have been severely impacted had he gone and not come back, because then my aunt, at that time, they were married. That's back in the day. You get married at 19, 20 years old. So they were already married at that time. My aunt was in college. He was too, but they really didn't care. They was sending folks over to Vietnam. And so that one little, medical ailment prevented him and changed the trajectory of his entire life. So.
Wow. So it's not just, as we honor black heroes in health, we're going to talk about just black history in general. I'll make a quick pivot. This is I guess we'll talk about Get Fit. This is about food. We're feeding our minds. We talked a lot about COVID and the vaccines, and of course, everyone except Edward Jenner is a father of vaccines. Didn't think it would relate to Black history, did you? It was actually the concept of vaccines. There was an issue with cowpox and breaking out in actually smallpox. There's a smallpox outbreak in the 16 and 1700s, and there was a guy that we've heard of in the history of the United States called Cotton Mather. He had a slave named Onesimus. Onesimus was Cotton Mather's slave, and he was really brilliant. Cotton Mather and he were talking, and he asked him, what do you do for smallpox in Africa? How do you deal with that where you're from? And Onesimus actually told him that what we do is we take a needle and put it up under the skin, and we inject it under the skin of people. It's a process called vacuolation from cows. And they started treating people with smallpox with the vacuolation process. Now, 100 years later, 1796, Edward Jenner took the vacuolation process. If you look at the part of the root of the word vaccination is vaca. Vaca in Latin means cow. So it's cowpox. So Edward Jenner took the vacuolation process that he was introduced to years later, that started with Onesimus, and adopted it. And here we have the concept of vaccines. Fast forward again, we can go to the 2020, when it was Dr. Kizzmekia Corbett that came up with the concept and the technology for a messenger RNA technology to be used. Now, the technology had been used in years prior. They'd been experimenting with it for other things, like for cancer. But she came up with the concept of possibly using it to fight this COVID vaccine. Thus, we were able to develop a vaccine and save thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of lives, because of the new mRNA technology that we have, that we're now is being used, it's being researched to use for other vaccines, like for the flu and other things. So those are just two. I mean, our show is only 30 minutes. And I know we have more people, but it's just amazing. I know we had also talked about earlier. You were telling me about a TikTok that I watched the reel. Tell me about that.
Yes. Okay. So the name on the screen is Frederick McKinley Jones. That's the brother that I was telling you about that created that refrigeration. It was World War II, not World War One. And he said he has received over 40 patents for his refrigeration equipment. He also created the Thermo King. And he is the first African-American to receive the National Medal of Technology. Frederick McKinley Jones, look up his story. It is fascinating. It's a great read. So the TikTok that Dr. Griggs is talking about is, so I am on TikTok, but I'm just on there for observation purposes only.
Yeah, me too, because I don't understand it and I have no rhythm. So
I have no posts whatsoever. That's my disclaimer. So when I say TikTok, don't go look for me doing all this other stuff. I'm not doing all that. Okay.
Well, I'll do it again. Yeah.
I used to back in the day, Rap City, y'all know, but anyway, so there was a white young lady that created a TikTok, and it was really kind of satirical because, of course, there's, again, talking about political climate and backlash about teaching CRT, which basically means anything that's Black history related. And so she created a TikTok, and she talks about inventions, that things that we wouldn't have if it wasn't for Black people.
So holy smokes and Batman, folks, when I tell you this video is entertaining, I've just seen a small snippet of
it. You saw, yeah. So one of the things that we would have, and I would be really, and I know this is not good because we're on a health show, but
keep it going.
Potato chips.
Oh man, you just took my thunder. Yo,
we would not have potato chips if it wasn't
not potato chips, not tater chips.
There's the reason why we love potato chips. Okay, it's Black. Black folks. His name is George Crumb, and he was a chef and restaurateur. And he said they said he had unintentionally created the potato chip during the summer of 1853. So potato chips have been around for a long time. Okay, they were made in response to a customer who sent back their fried potatoes after complaining that they were too thick. The crisps were an instant hit, so he cut them razor thin. Really being sarcastic. Oh, they too thick.
I got you. All right, player. Mm-hmm. Enjoy.
And then he fried them, and so they became crisp. They were instant hit, and though Crumb never patented the creations, chips are now arguably one of the world's favorite snacks. So George Crumb, inventor of the potato chip.
So I got one for you. Now you were talking about the war and the refrigeration process, being able to take the blood. The gas mask.
Yes.
The gas mask. It was invented by Garrett Morgan. He called it a safety hood after noticing how many firefighters were killed by smoke on the job, and it went over the head and had tubes connected to wet sponges. Oh, aren't we creative? Wet sponges that filtered out smoke and provided fresh oxygen. That's the gas mask. What you got?
Gas, yeah. And Garrett Morgan also invented the traffic light. Just FYI, he invented multiple things. And Garrett Morgan. So you look up Garrett Morgan, he is that dude. Okay.
Oh, and he added the yield. He expanded it after he invented it. He put the yellow in, which a lot of people don't understand what yield means. Not down here in New Orleans, it means speed up, because that's what everybody
as an aside, I'm teaching my son how to drive, right? So, and I said, well, don't do what I do, because I drive right through the yellows and I throw up a piece of ass. Can't do that. Like I said, son, you see the yellow? Stop. Okay. So I'm trying to get some obscure ones, because there's like George Washington Carver, Madam C.J. Walker, there's Garrett Morgan.
So what about George T. Sampson? You know what he did in 1892? He invented the clothes dryer.
Oh yeah, well,
yeah. And this is coming from someone who grew up with a grandmother whose people are from from South Carolina, but I grew up in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and we had a clothesline.
Oh yeah, you know about that clothesline.
Yeah, and you put them out in the sun, they smell like not outside, they smell like the sun. I might smell like outside after the bath, but your clothes will smell like the sun. George T. Sampson and the clothes dryer. What you got?
I got Alexander Miles.
Okay.
So back in the day, this was in 1887, he obtained a patent for um, automatic elevators.
Okay.
So before him, elevators were operated manually. People had to physically open and close the door of both the elevator and the shaft every time. You see those on the commercial, on those
Yeah.
old buildings where you got to
Yeah.
close them down. They had to
Yeah.
hold. He
I remember
realized,
riding those things with the guy with the.
yeah, and the attorney said he realized the constant hazard this posed when riding on an elevator with the shaft door open with his daughter. And so in 1887, he obtained a patent for his invention, including a flexible belt attached to the elevator cage, allowing the doors to function automatically. He was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame in 2007. So he did this in 1887, and you see when he got inducted, right?
Right, right, right. Yeah. After how many people claimed it first? Yeah. Well, just leave that. Moving right along. So obviously, your list, as folks you can see, Ellis's list is better than mine because he has dates and more extensive information. But I think I have a winner here. I think every kid that's in all of us can rejoice because of Mr. Alfred L. Krall, Cralle, Krall. He invented, drum roll, the ice cream scooper.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
special. That's special.
Yeah, that's special. He invented that because he wanted kids to have larger scoops than spoonfuls. Ellis, I don't have dates. I need dates on mine. I don't have my dates, but kids can rejoice. My favorite flavor is lemon custard. Of course, this is a health show. We don't want to eat too much ice cream, but a little ice cream is a treat. Not bad for you.
Especially our diabetics. Be
Yes.
careful with the ice cream. But
yes, yeah, we don't want the spikes.
So another health-related invention by a Black woman, Mary Patrice Davison Kenner. She had 4 names. Though she filed a total of 5 patents,
Wow.
Is thought to be one of the most forgotten Black inventors, despite her contributions to society. She patented the sanitary belt, which was a precursor to the sanitary napkin that women wear.
Nice.
In terms of keeping themselves sanitary. In 1957, she patented a sanitary belt, which was adjustable and had a moisture-proof napkin pocket in a time where women were still using cloth pads for their periods. She also created a serving tray that could be attached to a walking frame, a toilet tissue holder, and a backswasher that could be mounted on the wall of the shower. But she is most known for that sanitary belt to help women during their menstrual cycle.
Yeah, so I need a commercial break for a second because I need to upgrade my list. I need to step up my game. I'm gonna let you take another, man. You're killing me, Smalls. You're killing me.
Yeah, it's so this is so we all know about IBM and how they changed. And IBM stands for International Business Machines. If you did not know that, that's a little fact, for business school fact. So IBM created the first PC, first personal computer. But you did not know that Mark Dean, maybe a distant relative of mine,
okay,
who earned his doctorate at Stanford University and his master's at Florida Atlantic University, is a co-inventor of IBM's original personal computer and the color PC monitor. So when they talk about IBM, they need to give my man Mark Dean, my cousin, I'm claiming Mark Dean, his respects. As Hammer would say, give him his props.
Yeah, give him his props. That's dope. So now I've upgraded my list. Now these are African American. I have African American pioneers that changed healthcare. The first one is Dr. James McCune Smith.
Okay.
He was born in New York City in 1813, and he actually is credited with being the first African American doctor with his own practice in the United States. He graduated, went to the University of Glasgow in Scotland, where he earned a bachelor's, a master's, and medical degree by the age of 24. Was astute in, you ready for this? Latin, Greek, French, and developed a working knowledge of Hebrew, Italian, Spanish, and German. When he returned to New York in 1837, he opened his own practice and treated both. Now, get this, in 1837 treated both white and black patients and also served as chief doctor at the New York City Colored Orphan Asylum. He devoted his life to working with abolitionists to end the enslavement of black people in the South, and he died 3 weeks before the passage of the 13th Amendment. I wanted to make note of those years because it was 1864, if I'm not mistaken, that that there was the amendment to free the slaves.
65.
1850, 65.
65, yeah.
Yeah, 65. He had his own practice and pharmacy and treated both black and white people in New York City in 1837.
There's a
so
mother,
wait, that gets it. That's dope. That's a Wakanda dope. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so we really want people to understand in this and really, because we hear in media about how far away these times were, right? How far, it's a long time ago. Well, here's the thing. Those of us that are of a certain age needs to know this. Harriet Tubman and Ronald Reagan were alive at the same time. I'm gonna let that sink in. Say that again. Harriet Tubman and Ronald Reagan were alive at the same time, as well as Harriet Tubman and Thomas Jefferson were alive at the same time. There was some overlap. Ronald Reagan was born in 1911. Harriet Tubman died in 1913. So that's how close we are. So Ronald Reagan, Ronald Reagan was one of the first presidents I knew. He was president during the 80s. So just think about that when we're talking about, and think about the times that he was born in where Harriet Tubman was still alive. Ruby Bridges, the young lady that's in those pictures that integrated the school system in Alabama, Ruby Bridges is also still alive. She's an adult person in her 60s. So all those pictures of all those grown adult people screaming at that little black girl going to kindergarten when they were integrating schools in Alabama, she's still alive to this day. So we're not that far removed from that time, and why it's important for us to learn our history, hold on to it, and always remember it, because there's an effort, not everybody, there's an effort to remove that information from our school system. And knowing that stuff gives a super sense of pride. Understanding Charles Drew was the first to separate blood plasma from the cell. And so we talk about how we use blood plasma to this day. I used to go sell blood. We could talk about the days. We get for some blood plasma. Back when I was in college, they give you $15 for some blood plasma.
Hey man, you had to do what you had to do.
You had to do what you had to do. So we would go get a haircut and some Popeyes.
So I got a little excited earlier, and I did a total blackout. I did not mean to. I Wakanda'd, and I let the movie credits close and cleared the theater. I got really excited because on my list, and it's kind of a prelude, a precursor to what we're going to do. We're going to continue in this vein over the next month. But I found Dr. Daniel Hale Williams. Dr. Daniel Hale Williams is regarded as the first black African-American cardiologist, documented the first successful open heart surgery on a human. He started working as a surgeon, earned a medical degree, started working as a surgeon in Chicago in 1884 because of discrimination in hospitals that barred black doctors from working on staff. So he opened the nation's first black-owned interracial hospital. I want y'all to pay attention to these years. Like this is 1884. It's after 1865, but this was an interracial hospital. It was in the North. Now, again, I'm not going to give it away, but additionally, this is why I got excited. He was admitted, first black physician admitted to the American College of Surgeons, and he went on to co-found the National Medical Association, which was founded because they would not allow black doctors into the American Medical Association. And we might have a little history coming up about some other such organizations. Just stay tuned.
Stay tuned. So really, what we want people to recognize is that what we're learning in our formal education, particularly in our primary and secondary education in elementary, middle, and high school, what we learned there is not comprehensive, particularly as it pertains to Black people, right? To Black folks. And so what we have to do is supplement the education for ourselves. I didn't learn a lot of this stuff until I went off to college. I went to an HBCU, and it was really an awakening, right? And so here I was, well-versed in everything that they taught me in school. And I thought that was it. And I thought our history was limited to, I think we learned about Dred Scott, Booker T. Washington,
Martin Luther King, Malcolm X.
Malcolm X, and really didn't even talk about Malcolm X. That was an advanced course. That was AP.
Yeah, right.
That wasn't regular American. They didn't talk about Malcolm X in regular. They talked about Martin Luther King, nonviolent. They weren't talking about by any means necessary in the regular classes. So we had to talk about that in advanced classes. But when I got to college and I realized all of these people, these great, James Durham, it was Alexa Irene Kennedy. She's the first female African American neurosurgeon.
Wow. Look, so I'm looking here now. It's Dr. Jane Cook Wright. She's trip this. She's the daughter of one of the first African American graduates of Harvard Med School. The daughter. She was born in 1919 and she passed away in 2013. Her father was Dr. Lewis Wright, who was also the first Black doctor appointed to a staff position at a municipal hospital in New York. And in 1919, the city hired him as a police surgeon, making him the first African American in that position. Now, his daughter, Dr. Jane Cook Wright, worked alongside her dad at the Cancer Research Foundation in Harlem that was established in 1948. Dad and daughter researched chemotherapy drugs that led to remissions in patients with leukemia and lymphoma. And so she became the head of the Cancer Research Foundation at age 33 when her father passed away from tuberculosis. And she came up with an innovative technique to test the effect of drugs on cancer cells by using patient tissue rather than laboratory mice. Wow. They put her in the New York Cancer Society, elected her as the first woman president in 1971, and her research helped transform chemotherapy from a last resort to a viable treatment option for cancer. Folks, this is not critical race theory. This is history. This is our history.
Right.
This is the fabric of what it is that makes up every one of us. So, and as opposed to the history that we were taught in schools, taking the AP classes, taking the classes, even in college and beyond, there's a rich history of what we've done to enrich healthcare, medicine, in our everyday lives.
And Jane Cook Wright, and bringing it home, because we talked about the NMA, right? At the NMA this last summer here in Atlanta, they did a dedication to Jane Cook Wright for her contribution to the treatment of cancer. And so Rebecca Lee Crumpler, she was the first African-American woman to earn a medical degree.
Wow.
Rebecca Lee Crumpler, she earned her medical degree in 1864. Remember we said enslavement ended in 1865?
65.
She got her degree in 1864. And so thank you, Keela. I'm hoping I'm saying your name right, from Stone Mountain. Thank you all. We bid you greetings as well. Thank you for joining us this evening. We're geeking out right now. Just FYI.
We're geeking out. Can I give them a little hint? I mean, it's hard to keep it. Can I say a little?
Sure.
So since we're talking about the establishment of that organization, we talked about the National Medical Association being founded and the reason why. As we do dig deep in our history, I recently found out that my grandfather, Dr. John Howlett Sr., was one of the founders. He and Dr. Colin Powell founded the National Medical Association in 1969. My dad and my uncles and my family, hopefully we will have them on and we'll talk about Papa, and Dr. Colin and what they went through. Ellis, you want to kind of talk about what we kind of got cooked up for next month?
Kayla, sorry. Sorry, Kayla. I apologize. Thank you for correcting me on that, but welcome and thank you for joining us this evening.
Hey, Kayla, sorry.
So we're really going to be talking about the intersection of Black history and health, right? And so we're going to extend this past Black History Month because it's really, as the phrase goes, it's Black History 365.
Yeah.
And his family has a living Black history in there in terms of doctors that have founded significant organizations. So what we're going to do is we're going to have them on. They're gonna do a roundtable discussion, kind of talking about.
You're gonna sit there and be little kids.
What that was like. So we're gonna be like the kids and sitting at the baby table, but got that ear on the big table.
Yeah.
At Thanksgiving, we're gonna let them talk about it because it's really understanding that. In terms of what our people have done for this country, we didn't even talk about, Benjamin Banneker. I saw a TikTok that said that basically it was a white dude saying the greatest, the smartest and greatest scientist that he's ever researched was Benjamin Banneker. Right?
Wow.
And defended it. Right. And they were like, what about Benjamin Franklin? They were like, yeah. And so he said, well, he might be on par, but you don't understand. This dude was, he said he did.
This dude was that dude.
He said he did an almanac predicting the moon cycle 10 years into the future within one day. This dude, yeah, it just Benjamin Banneker was he was that dude, right? And, and he planned Washington D.C. Like he did so much. He was like, I could put my dude up against anything you got, right? And he
planned, say that. No, you said that too quickly. He planned Washington D.C.
Yeah, laid out. He was a mathematician, and he's the one that laid out. So like when you look at Washington D.C. from an aerial view, and you see how it's all laid out in all the streets, he did that. He's the one that did that. So
hopefully that's my cousin, your cousin. That's somebody's cousin out there. Somebody great grandpa. Something.
We're all related, and we should take a personal pride in what our people have done in this country, and so. But knowing this, I chuckle to myself when I see people get on TV and say, well, y'all haven't really done anything. And I said, no, you haven't really learned anything.
There you go.
You haven't done anything. That's my immediate response. And then when I start laying into them, they kind of back up. Because I'm like, and I don't know it all. Like Doc was telling me some things tonight, but I continue to try to learn. And really, it is a short Google search away. Just put in Black inventors and read their stories and then go deeper. And there's books, there's a whole lot that you can find out about it, and just do it. And if you only do it during February, do one each day and share it with your friends and family, and they will get a kick out of it. I got a deck of cards that's got Black history facts on it. I'm because it became an obsession for me, because knowing that history about our people, bringing it home, gave me focus, if that makes sense, in terms of going out in the world and understanding that there were people before me that dealt with much more stress than I have to deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah, there's a swag that comes to your DNA and your genetic, and it speaks to your perseverance. It speaks to your grit. It empowers you to know more of your history, because just like Ellis said, the trials that they had to endure in order to do this. My dad gave me a book for Christmas that I'm about 2/3 of the way through, called The Organ Thieves. And it talks about, basically it speaks to the history. It's about Richard Chapman, I think it is. No, it's Chip Jones. And it talks about the first African-American heart transplant in the South, in the segregated South, that happened to take place in Richmond, and everything that goes along with it. So it uses that as the scenario to talk about the contributions, unwilling, by the way, contributions of African-Americans to the advancement of medicine. That there were myths that I had heard about when I was in med school about clinical research and our first year experimenting on cadavers in the African-American community. Like, hey, Doc, they stole those bodies. And I literally thought it was a myth. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. No, this book, it details it. And it wasn't just at in Richmond at the Medical College of Virginia. If you dig deeper into your history, you'll find some things that aren't so pleasant, but we endured. And we've learned from and we've grown from, but it's a part of your history, and it's made you the strong person that you are.
And just understand how strong we are as a people, and so that should give you that pride. I definitely I definitely agree with that. One more thing, we got a little heavy. But one more thing that Black people invented that we love so much: macaroni and cheese.
Oh man! Oh, you gonna try to end on macaroni and cheese?
It was.
I'm not talking about in a box either. They didn't have no box. Not in the box. Not in the box.
If you got Netflix, High on the Hog is a series on Netflix, and I think they're bringing back a second season of that. I encourage you to watch High on the Hog because it talks about the history of Black people and food here in America, right? And it talked about what we brought over with us, what they brought over on the ships with us, from like yams and okra and tomatoes and all of these things that they brought from Africa with us.
Gumbo, jollof, yeah.
That's how we got brought here, and that's why we love. So there's a certain brand of rice out there with the Carolina Gold.
It is
in South Carolina that was brought over, and the true story is told as part of that series about Carolina Gold. When slaves were freed, they left the plantation. They were like, I'm out, and the Carolina Gold strain of rice almost died out because the white farmers couldn't grow it, right? They needed the Africans that knew how to grow Carolina Gold, and it almost became extinct here in the United States. But somebody found a bag, and rice keeps. Somebody found a bag, and so they have reinstituted it. Of course, it's not owned by Black people anymore, so it's a white guy that did it. But now you can buy that Carolina Gold rice here. But it was definitely, and it was the best rice. It was, but the macaroni and cheese was a chef, Sally Hemings' brother. You know, Sally Hemings, it was Thomas Jefferson.
Hey.
And her older brother, was a chef, trained in France for several years, and came back, and he created the dish. And so, like, you'll see in some history books that Thomas Jefferson is given credit for inventing macaroni and cheese, of course. They wrote his name on it because it made it. I'm not going to say why, but we know why.
Yeah.
But it was really her brother that created the dish for Thomas Jefferson, and he just took credit for it. So just understand that some of the stuff that we do, that we enjoy, that we love, was created by us. So when I'm going downstairs after we get off the show, and I'm gonna crack open that bag of potato chips. Got the crumb.
Yeah, and get that big scoop of ice cream. Yes. So to get checked, we always say climb your family tree, folks. Get checked, get fit, get moving. Climb your family tree. You'll have a rich history. We have deep roots, and we will continue to grow. Ellis, what we talking about next month? Next show, next
we're
month.
Talking about the history. His family and the connection to certain organizations that are prominent in Black medical history. And so just understand there is history all around us. There's history in your family. You just got to ask, find out, talk to Big Mama, talk to Papa. They will tell you something about that has happened with somebody in their neighborhood. Share that history. Let's keep it going amongst ourselves. I don't need somebody else to teach it to me. I'm going to learn it myself. And buy those books and keep them in your family.
The Organ Thieves by Chip Jones. Great book, folks. We'll see y'all in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Hey, do something.
Get checked, get